Late last week, the federal government announced some new plans and targets to help Canada meet some of its climate change goals, among them up to $15 billion in new spending and an increase in the carbon tax that consumers will bear. How will all of that add up to meeting our goals and growing the economy? Catherine McKenna is with us, Minister of Infrastructure and Communities. Thank you for being with us, Minister. We appreciate your time today.
Great to join you, Amanda.
So I want to start first with the tripling in the amount of the carbon tax. And you'll hear from both sides. But let's start with the side that says it's not enough. It's still actually an amount that is lower than some projections that corporations are using, for instance, on the price of carbon. Does it get us where we need to go?
Well, it certainly does, because on Friday I was with the Prime Minister and Minister Wilkinson, where we announced that we're exceeding our target. And when you look at how do you reduce emissions, you can do it price on pollution, you can do other regulatory measures, you can do investments. And we're doing all three. We're not just relying on price, although clearly it shouldn't be free to pollute. And that creates the incentive for people to make low carbon choices. You want people to not pay it. That's the goal. But we're also making, as you pointed out, $15 billion in investments, everything from retrofitting buildings to supporting industries to become lower carbon. I'm from Hamilton, as folks may know, originally. Low carbon steel, low carbon aluminum, huge opportunities, also electric vehicles. And we had the infrastructure bank. So that's not even part of this plan, but it was announced the $10 billion growth plan that it certainly is part of the transition to a low carbon future. We're also going to be moving forward on lower carbon fuels. That's a huge innovation opportunity. And look, the reality is the world has changed so much since 5 years ago. I was in Paris. We were negotiating the Paris Agreement. And look at where we're at. That you have major financial institutions, you have businesses, you have governments all moving forward, committing to net zero in many cases. And the strongest economies in the future are going to be the ones that have the clean solutions. And that I just made an announcement today in Ottawa about electric buses. Who are they made by? New Flyer. New Flyer is a Manitoba, it's a Winnipeg company that's creating good jobs there. We're a leader in producing electric buses, but also in so many other clean tech spaces. And this is a win-win for us because we're going to get out of the pandemic, but we're still going to have the climate crisis. And we need jobs, we need growth, and we also need a cleaner future for our kids. That's absolutely clear.
This is something that your government has been clear on, but faces stiff opposition, and that you still face a couple of Supreme Court challenges from two provinces. What's the plan should that go against you? What will be the approach of the federal government if the Supreme Court rules against you in terms of the ability to impose a carbon tax?
Look, I mean, the Supreme Court will make its own decision, but we feel pretty confident that they will find that it shouldn't be free to pollute and that pollution doesn't know any borders. So as a federal government, we do have a responsibility to Canadians. But look, we've seen provinces that have moved forward, putting a price on pollution. British Columbia and Quebec are great examples. Guess what? They are also leading when it comes to clean technology solutions. And the residents of those provinces believe that that's critically important, but so do Canadians. We had an election where most Canadian-supported parties have put a price on pollution. The world, as I say, has changed so much. Just look at the Biden administration, the incoming administration. They've put climate change as a top priority across their government. And they've also put it as a national security issue. So it's no longer seen just as something nice to do for the environment. It's actually something that means cleaner air, cleaner water, preventing natural disasters. And also, most importantly, right now is creating jobs, because that's really my focus. I'm infrastructure minister. We need to get things built. We need to create jobs, but we need to get multiple benefits as we spend taxpayer dollars. You need to get triple benefits. One, jobs and growing the economy. We need growth. Two, we need to be tackling climate change. And three, we need to build more inclusive communities. And this is really the opportunity for Canada.
And I want to play a clip from an economist you'll know well, Benjamin Tal at CIBC. Talked to him earlier, and he talked about this kind of the tension we have here as we try to, remake our economy and what we need to do in order to survive that. Have a listen.
What worries me in the short term is the ability of Canada to compete in the global arena, given the fact that the cost of doing business in Canada is rising. Therefore, we must compensate for that in a different way, through infrastructure, through high tech, through lower taxes somewhere else on businesses. Because in the short term, we will be competing with governments that are not doing the same. So we will be less attractive if we don't compensate for this increase in the cost of doing business in Canada.
And Minister, I mean, right, that lands right at your doorstep, right? What he's saying is if we're going to fight climate change and it will necessarily make some things more costly, how do we spend on infrastructure and technology, the things that will be in your mandate? What's in the plan? And is $15 billion enough, or is there more in that area?
Well, the good news is the Prime Minister has already indicated there's more to come. Permanent public transit funding was something that was announced. He alluded to that we're moving forward in January on that, and we've made historic investments in public transportation. But if you look at investments in infrastructure, I mean, I completely agree with them that's the biggest driver of growth aside from immigration. And infrastructure is no longer the same thing that we think infrastructure was in the old days, roads and bridges. It's far beyond roads and bridges. It's broadband. It's digital infrastructure. We just announced that we're going to make historic investments in broadband. We need to connect everyone, even if we didn't have the pandemic, but the pandemic has made it more obvious. The infrastructure bank is going to play a significant role in that as well. But we need to be making these investments. We need growth. We need jobs. And we need to move to a cleaner future. And the one thing I would say, because I do spend a lot of time talking to folks around the world, is that the world, it really has changed. I mean, when you have BlackRock saying, you know, we're looking across our portfolio at, you know, where we're investing and where folks are investing because we think there's a huge risk. And we're going to be smart about how everyone's got to move to a low carbon future. When you look at businesses saying they're moving to net zero, when you look at governments, you know, from, you know, Europe, you've got the UK really leading, being very ambitious on climate now, France, Germany. And now the Biden administration, as I say, the whole game has changed now in the sense that they have been very clear that climate is one of their top priorities, that they will look at climate change across everything they do with John Kerry. So they're putting huge importance on this. China said they're going to be net zero by 2060. So Canada has to compete. We cannot be left behind. I know that it's overused, but we got to go where the puck is going. Or in swimming terms, because I'm a swimmer, you need to look down at the end of the lane and figure out how you're going to put your head down and just get there. And that's what we're doing. We're creating the conditions for this to happen. And of course, it's got to be the market. The market plays such an important role. And you've seen businesses adjust. Huge opportunities for Canada. You look at electric vehicles. I think that's a huge place. Batteries, storage, but even the newer solutions. Carbon capture, use and storage, huge opportunity. Carbon removal, we have to remove carbon from the atmosphere, and we have companies that are leading in that area too. So I think this is a huge win, and I'm going to do my part through the infrastructure portfolio, that's for sure.